All right, so for the one kind of big story that I wanted to cover here in depth, we are on the 10-year anniversary of the decision by LeBron James. And for those of you who don't know, LeBron James, NBA player, was born in Ohio, Akron, Ohio, played high school there, number one overall pick by, you'd guess it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who play in absolutely Cleveland, Ohio. He played the first 7-8 years of his career there, and Cleveland's not a free agent destination. Even before LeBron gets there, it's not a very popular place. So LeBron decides to leave, and you know the infamous clip, he took his talent to South Beach. Most of us have heard of it, or we've seen some of the backlash. Most of us have a pretty good idea of what happened, but just a history there. So at the time I didn't like it, and here today I still don't like it. But it might be different than what most people are going to say. So first is, let's talk about why I don't like it, and then we'll go into kind of why it was right for him to do it. So LeBron James, like I said, born and raised in Ohio, played his first several years in the NBA there. He knew going into that night that he was going to make a tough decision. The decision, no pun intended, but he knew that what he was deciding to do was going to be really tough on the community. There's a lot of fans. Remember, fans is short for fanatic, and that's a real tough thing for some people to kind of separate and draw the line. Remember, there were people burning LeBron's jersey. They were burning jerseys that at the time, I gotta imagine like $70 to $80 for a jersey. You're burning $80 there. I mean, maybe more depending upon where you got it and where you live and things like that, but that's a lot of money. So the reason that I didn't like this, though, is not because of the power move, not because of the ownership he took, not because of anything other than the spectacle. He knew, and he's come out on the record since saying he knew that this was going to be really tough for the state of Ohio. He knew that he was going to be hurting some people. He knew that this wasn't going to be popular, and yet he still went through and did this televised charade and spectacle that caused people frustration. Now, I don't think there's any way to get around it. He was going to get ripped into no matter what happened, and that's just the world we live in. It doesn't matter what the athlete does. There's not many, if any, athletes that get to leave in their prime without having some sort of backlash. But I think the way he did it on ESPN as a built-up special, I think that is where it just didn't go right for me. He could have easily released a press statement and just said, hey, this is what's going on. Thank you for my time in Cleveland. The reason that I think he's correct in doing this, the reason I think that LeBron was 100% justified in doing this, is because he spent 7 years in Cleveland. They got to one finals. They got swept by the Spurs. They also never got him another true number two, a number two to get him over the hump, a superstar, another key player. When he left and went to Miami, didn't just have one, but he had two of them. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. How do you argue that? How do you argue that if you're LeBron? And the city of Cleveland rebounded. Okay, they did absolutely fine. I do think it's funny that there are so many fans who are just done with the team because LeBron was gone, when in reality they were fair weather fans. And I don't care what you say. Let me tell you some truth. The Chicago Bulls are going through a terrible time right now, just like they did coming out of the Jordan years, and I'm still here watching it. I'm still here loving this team. Unfortunately, the pandemic shut that down just a bit, but you get my point. Through the highs and the lows, if you're going to be a fan, if you are going to be the fan that burns the jersey, you need to be the fan that buys the jersey of the next guy that comes in, which would have been Kyrie Irving the next year's draft, like the following year, something like that. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, LeBron was not in the wrong, and it's funny because we often get these things confused, but this is God's honest truth, guys. You have to remember that there is nothing wrong with athletes wanting to enhance their position in life. their time to maximize their value in the world is so much shorter. When you talk about that financial aspect, it's so much shorter than what you or I have. And it's so much more competitive. We hear about them making tens of millions of dollars and yada yada, but you talk about taxes, you talk about, it's not, like, I can't imagine that it's that big of a difference in terms of living. Like, you have bills, you have expenses, you have all these things that you have to take care of. There's probably more people that come into you. So there's a lot of things that they do have to deal with in this aspect. No sympathy for them. But just like you would, everyone who's watching this or who listens to this or who has ever paid attention to their own career path has probably taken a different job for more money, better opportunity, relocation. That was kind of all three reasons for LeBron. Now, maybe not the money. I don't know for sure. I actually think he might have taken a little bit of a pay cut. But that's kind of what he did. Now, look, that move to Miami held back my Chicago Bulls from making it to a finals at least that one year. And then I gotta imagine that if he's not with the Heat and if the East is a little bit more balanced, the Bulls, they might have a chance down the road. I don't know. Everyone will cite the Derrick Rose injuries and this and that and the other thing, but we don't know how the world would turn because those games during the season would have been different, and maybe they play different in the postseason. And who knows what happens? Oh God, but to think about it. Anyways, so I don't blame LeBron for leaving. I don't blame LeBron for saying, "Hey, you know what? You guys just can't get anything. You can't get anything going here, and it's time for me to." It's time for me to go on to the next step. He did come back, and he did take Cleveland to 4 straight finals. And it's really funny how Dan Gilbert, who his net worth tripled, and he wrote a letter that was very demonstrative and had some of the undertones and overtones and that racial tension that we just don't want to kind of talk about in sports right now, but we should talk about. Yeah, you know what I mean. Go read that letter. That was more than just a man who was angry. I mean, he was ignorantly angry. He was blindly angry. And it happens. I mean, we've all been there, but you can't blame LeBron. You just can't. So we would all do the same thing. So that's just my one big story that I thought that would be kind of fun to dive into a bit and discuss. I didn't like the spectacle. I liked the career move. But my point was, Cleveland welcomed him back. People get caught up in the moment sometimes. People get caught up in their emotions sometimes. And it takes them a while, but they'll always welcome him back, right?